Boys, girls, I'd like to welcome you back to the, what have we decided to call this? The Grimmcast. That's what we're going to call it. That's what I'm sticking with. Fuck a podcast. This is the Grimmcast. So, today, we are going to cover a detective. Now, I know all of you love the police nowadays. I know that. I know. So this should be fun. Because this would be the guy that y'all complain about. You know, going around there hitting motherfuckers in the head and shit. This would be perfect for you. So, today, the story of Broadway Johnny Broderick, legendary NYPD detective and breaker of every fucking jaw he could find. Now, throughout my professional career, I've made no illusions about my stance on sycophants and people that buy their way into power they didn't earn and are too retarded to use properly. Now, I've been quite direct about it. I mean, resurrect a few Spartans, had the ass kissers rounded up, and promptly march them off the nearest cliff. That's generally my opinion. I mean, I would gladly die from a heart attack induced from laughing so goddamn hard, watching their heads break open on the rocks and my dog pissing on their soft, flabby bodies. If you made it a point to keep up my ranting as a void, you probably share this similar sentiment. I mean, why would you be here? I'm pretty sure you've caught the hint that I'm a little shot out. But you're watching, so that must mean you're shot out too. So hey, we get along just fine. But as I know, I am an acquired taste. However, while I've been less than impressed with many individuals who hold higher standing than me, I have to acknowledge there are a few who ride the gray line between gritty hard ass and skillful political navigator. And for the life of me, I find myself admiring them, at least partially. Going over the story of NYPD Detective Johnny Broderick from the start, I was inclined to think I was reading about a man who just got an easy hookup from his political connections. Still, if the tales of all his exploits are even half right, the man was a bona fide badass dealing with some of the hardest gangsters New York City had to offer in his era while navigating and thriving in a corrupt political system. Now, was he a squeaky clean cop who followed the policy to the letter? Fuck no. I mean, hell, you're unlikely to find one that does that in the modern day, let alone back in Prohibition. I have no doubt that Broderick had some skeletons in his closet, probably a shit ton of them. But in a time when gangsters and mafia activity were at their peak, and course were just letting people walk, breaking a few jaws and ribs to get the job done was just par for the course. I mean, say what you want, but Johnny managed to get himself into the book of legendary lawmen, so let's just go ahead and get the story started. Now, John Joseph Broderick was born on the 16th of January, 1896, in the Gas House District, or Stuyvesant Town, Peter Cooper Village. New Yorkers, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your weird fucking words. Deal with it. The area was dog shit poor, so it can be assumed Johnny didn't have it easy growing up, and probably picked up his fighting skills, putting his size 3 boots in some bully's ass after church school, for his first decade of life. Now, at some point, his dad decided to shuffle off his mortal coil and chill out with Jesus in the afterlife without leaving enough money for Johnny and his mom to get on with their shitty lives. So, being the little hard ass that he was, Johnny nutted up and got a job driving a brick truck to support his family at age 12. Now, when the U.S. entered World War I in 1917, Johnny signed up for service in the Navy. Seeing that the U.S. was a little late to that war, Johnny didn't have to be, he wasn't stuck on a boat with a bunch of hot, sweaty, and wet seamen long, and he got back to New York as soon as possible, which is probably good for his butthole. Now, over the next few years, Johnny would put his brawling skills to good use serving as a bodyguard for a local labor leader and beating up commies down by the docks whenever they would start up labor strikes. That's going to be kind of a thing with Johnny. He wasn't too fond of the communists. That's something to note because he's going to do that a lot. In April of 1922, he joined up with the NYPD fire department, but he quickly figured out that all firefighters do all day is basically oil their bodies up and slide down poles. So he gave it about a year, but after getting bored of holding the camera while the fire chief was trying to take sexy nude shots for the yearly fireman's calendar, Johnny said, fuck this shit, washed the coconut oil off his abs, and signed up for the NYPD. Now, Johnny was picked up by the NYPD on the 16th of January, 1923. That's his birthday. Take a note of that. That's going to come up near the end of this. For the average rookie, the next few years would be spent walking the beat, dealing with domestic violence cases, losing your rookie naivety of being able to, make a difference, and gradually gaining a fondness for smoking or alcohol to get through your day until you retire. Like your average cop. But this wasn't the case for Johnny at all. Within 3 months of being hired, Johnny was promoted to detective 3rd grade. By March 1925, he was promoted to detective 2nd grade. And by March 1926, he was detective 1st grade. Understand this. The average promotion to basic bitch rank detective in NYC at that time was after 5 years of service, with 3 to 5 years being the average I've seen in the current day. Johnny got that rank after 3 fucking months of putting on a goddamn badge. Now, the New York Herald Tribune has this to say about his accomplishment, quote, "Extraordinary luck, or influence, or both," end quote. His fellow co-workers, especially that guy that's been waiting for a promotion for 13 years and can't catch a fucking break, likely had this shit to say. "What kind of shit is that? I've been here 13 fucking years and I can't get a fucking break." That's probably what you heard coming out of their goddamn mouths. But hey, it is what it is. Officially speaking, the Daily News stated that no fewer of Detective Broderick's contemporaries felt that he had an angel somewhere in the city. Now, in plain speak, that's their polite way of saying dude was hooked up at the top by someone and getting the good life because of it. Given my own experiences with such things, I believe that to be the case, as very often in life, it's not what you know, but who you know. So later in 1934, the Tribune will report that Johnny used to be a chauffeur for a coal merchant that was close to the chief inspector at the NYPD. It wouldn't be a stretch to think that his former boss got him in tight with the inspector and gave his career an extreme kickstart. Along with his promotion, Broderick was put in charge of a unit called the Industrial Squad, plainclothes officers that kept an eye on the labor movement, get the fights that break out under control, and punch communists in the face until they tear up and take that bullshit back to Russia. And no, I'm sure the NYPD were not given orders to drop kick a commie for mommy. I'm sure they weren't explicitly given that order. But if some random labor worker just happened to hit one in the dick, I doubt anyone bitched when a report wasn't written about it, and a captain probably heard a lot of, I didn't see shit from the squad. That kind of shit. Yeah. Broderick definitely wasn't fond of militant labor workers, and he gave zero fucks leading his squad in the fights with the various labor groups. To their credit, the workers gave as good as they got, as Johnny got a nose broken in a conversation with garment workers. Not for nothing. You'd think he got it worse from, the fur or the lumber guys, since, they deal with, axes and all kinds of shit. You're gutting a couple of salmon, you're cutting down, slicing up some deer fur. No. Apparently people who make blankets were fucking savages, and they were not to be taken lightly. So make a note of that next time you fuck with somebody rolling around in a Snuggie. Eventually, the Gangster Squad. New York was not very good at giving their task forces cool names like SWAT or Commando 7 or anything like that, was merged with the Industrial Squad, and they put Johnny in charge of one of the biggest goon squads in the city. From 1926 to 28, Broderick and the boys were clapping the cheeks of commies, gangsters, hood rats, angry Karens, and Ninja Turtles all up and down Manhattan. They would even stop and do nice things like community interaction and helping young ladies get home after a long day of work, twerking that ass on the sidewalk. Such nice boys. Really nice boys. His crew even assisted in a prison break from the Manhattan prison known as the Tombs. Broderick apparently faced down 2 inmates who killed 2 prison officials attempting to escape. The inmates were already wounded in some manner, but upon seeing Broderick approach, they decided they didn't want any of his steel-toed boot in their butt cheeks and promptly committed suicide as he walked towards him. Seeing as Broderick wasn't as fond of using his gun as he was of just beating the living fuck out of people, I doubt he pulled the trigger on him and just pretended it was a suicide. And, seeing as they had already killed 2 people, who the fuck cares? I mean, let's be real. So, maybe Johnny also had some type of force powers or just exuded an aura that made you want to suck a bullet rather than have him bouncing your head off the pavement. Or Nasty Nate was their cellmate and they just didn't want to go back. No one really knows why these guys decided to just off themselves at the presence of fucking Dark Lord Johnny Broderick, but hey, it is what it is. Again. By 1928, Johnny was sitting high in the long game. Minus a few people who felt that he was a bit excessive, maybe a little bit. With his habit of, dropping the people's elbows on fools, the press treated him like he was the city's guardian angel, their dark knight. I am the knight, I saved the city. That's, that was the worst Batman ever, I know. He was racking up medals for valor, significant accolades for stopping the prison break by practically just showing the fuck up and offering free bodyguard services to victims of crimes. He was practically a celebrity, something that you rarely see among law enforcement officials nowadays. At some point, he was assigned to work Broadway, and some of his exploits clearly inspired movie makers over the years. A couple of points for you. Broderick was a fighter. He was known to rarely pull his gun and preferred just breaking a hood's jaw instead of blasting them, even if they had a gun. On Broadway, his last name became a slang term, and to get Broderick meant that you got knocked out in a single punch. I mean, I think some cats call that a one-hitter quitter nowadays. When you crack people so much that your last name is code for being laid the fuck out, you know you made it in life. Point 2. Johnny had a love for the ladies and would not take kindly to any man disrespecting them in his presence. In one instance, he tossed a couple of guys who were harassing a woman out plate glass windows one by one, and then charged them with malicious destruction of property for breaking the fucking window. The men received a 30-day sentence in jail. Point 3. At some point, he managed to knock out mobster Two Gun Crowley with a single punch while Crowley was pointing a gun at him. Johnny broke his knuckles, so maybe Crowley took that as a minor victory after being utterly destroyed and embarrassed. In 1931, while attempting to arrest Crowley, who was barricaded in the house, Johnny just said fuck waiting for backup and tried to break into the house and send Crowley to the fucking gulag solo. COD references for you guys out there. It didn't work, and Johnny was hospitalized, but I mean, that's pretty damn ballsy. Point 2. What point are we on? I lost track of my points. We're just going to say point. Broderick gave 0 fucks when it came to some scumbag's feelings. When a funeral was held for a member of the Hudson Duster gang, Johnny went to the guy's funeral, looked at the casket, and spat in the dead man's eye. That's fucking brutal. That's fucking brutal. Gangster Legs Diamond. What kind of name is that? Gangster Legs Diamond. Legs Diamond. Who names himself Legs?
It looks like you haven't set up any home.
Shut up, Siri!
You can connect
Siri!
lights, locks.
Then shut the fuck up! God damn. Why are you interrupting my damn podcast? What the fuck's wrong with you? I didn't even say your damn name. Sorry. That's what I get. Legs Diamond was heard making threats about taking Johnny out. And word got back to Johnny. In the modern era, threats to Leo or law enforcement usually resulted, in the modern era. Oh, goddamn. See, Siri, she threw me off. I'm sorry. Now I'm thrown off. In the modern era, threats to law enforcement usually result in an email that basically says, quote, hey, this guy might be a problem. Keep your eyes out, yada yada. See, Johnny wasn't about that bullshit, though. He got a couple of his boys, went to confront Legs directly, and he did one or all of the following 3 things. One account says he dumped the trash can on Legs' head and made him crawl away. Another says he tossed Legs head first into the trash can. And the last says he kept it simple and just basically knocked him the fuck out with a one-hitter quitter got Broderick, leaving him unconscious for about 20 minutes. I mean, basically talk shit, get hit. Finally, Johnny would often wrap a lead pipe in newspaper, and when dealing with a belligerent hoodlum, he'd proceed to whack him with the newspaper, quote, newspaper, it has a lead pipe in it now, like they were a dog who just ate his favorite Gucci boots. This was pure genius, as while he was raining down holy justice upon a criminal heretic with a lead pipe of the law, all the old ladies sitting on the corner saw was the hardest gangster on the block crying like a bitch made whole because he was being hit with a newspaper. Old Italian bitches never let that shit die, and when that dude gets out of jail, they'll be talking shit about him on the block for years. Now, just so you know, all kings must die, my son. You rise and you fall. So as stated in the Batman movie, you die a hero or you live to see yourself become the villain. While Johnny didn't become necessarily a villain, he did have enemies in high places. And he wasn't exactly the cleanest cop out there. He was dogged by allegations of misconduct, corruption, and excessive force. I mean, that last part's kind of a given. Ever since his days on the docks. One thing noted about Johnny was that while he was 5'10", 170 pounds of angry law dog who stayed in the gym every day and came off as a man among men, he was fond of the more beautiful things in life. He lived affluently in a house in Queens and drove a Cadillac. While I don't know the type of Cadillac he drove, a Cadillac 16 at the time cost about $7,000. Broderick's cop salary was about $4,000 a year or so. I believe that was a yearly salary or so. While it's not impossible to save up for, it would be an uncomfortable purchase for a detective with a family and a house to pay for on that salary alone. So, yeah, you got a nice fucking car that's way over your salary point. You might be getting a little hookup somewhere. He was also known to be a bit of a dandy. Now, for the modern man, I want you to think, what was that term back in the day? Metrosexual, or just a guy who's really into fashion. You know, not gay. You know, not that, but, you know, a guy who's really prim and primping, you know, your boy, like, you try to go and get him, hey man, you want to go out? And it takes your dude, like, 10 minutes to go get his hair done, got to put on the right stuff, and I'm like, bro, we just going to 7-Eleven, man. I'm just going to get a bang, a couple of monsters, and, like, some old-ass sandwiches. I'm hungry. But nah, he has to gotta look good. Boots gotta be shined, my jeans gotta be pressed. That's what Johnny was. His favorite underwear was underwear. And yes, I did manage to find this. This is stuff that popped up about him, a guy's underwear. His favorite underwear was monogrammed cream-colored silk boxers. I don't know how a newspaper knew that, but those are some fancy-ass draws, considering your average cop today is probably wearing some old-ass Hanes underwear with holes in them and telling his wife they're still good, so don't throw them out. Broderick had tight connections with the Democratic Tammany. Okay, Tammany. There we go. Tammany Hall political organization, which was in power around his early years. They were so close that on his 10th anniversary with the NYPD, they threw him a party at the Vanderbilt Hotel, and they had high-end celebs show up to provide entertainment for free that night. I can tell you right now, my 10th anniversary was spent at home jacking off, watching Pornhub, and crying in my vodka how I should have been an astronaut, but I'm here jerking off, covered in Dorito dust and depression. So, Johnny, if you can hear me from beyond the grave, fuck you. Fuck you right in the pussy. Those connections backfired on him when the Republican Fiorello LaGuardia, oh, that's a shitty fucking airport, isn't it? Yeah. Became the mayor in 1934. LaGuardia considered Tammany, I hate this fucking word. Tammany. Yeah, Tammany. Okay. Tammany Hall to be a bunch of corrupt cuntbags and had no love for anyone even mildly associated with them. In 1929, he accused the industrial squad of extorting payoffs from the labor groups they patrolled. And the squad was disbanded in 1933, most likely due to the drama, since nothing ever came of it. When LaGuardia became mayor, Broderick was demoted to the rank of patrolman. Ooh. Took a hit. You went from fucking top grade detective to patrolman. God damn. And they made his ass walk a beat for about 5 months. It's believed this was done because a lot of Tammany Hall politicians, I got it right that time, had endorsed Broderick in the past, and LaGuardia just wasn't fond of him. It's not entirely clear, but his demotion was definitely political. His pay was cut by $1,000, and he was sent to Long Island City to, chill out for a little bit. Police Commissioner Orion eventually gave him third-grade detective rank again 5 months later due to glowing reviews from his commander and knowing the mayor was kind of being a petty bitch for the most part. Still, I mean, he didn't get his first grade rank back until like 1939 under the new Democratic mayor. So he had to wait out this mayor's run before he can get his rank back. Given that I've gone over his heroic exploits, I'm going to have to cover the dirt. So let's go on ahead back to that bullet point structure, shall we? July 1926. The ACLU accused the squad of clubbing and beating Interborough Rapid Transit Company workers and injuring 20 of them. Johnny shrugged it off and said, self-defense. They were coming right at me. What do you want me to do, eh? Gotta go. 1928. He was accused by 2 spectators of a bike race in Madison Square Garden of excessive force. While I couldn't find what started the altercation, he ended up sending them to the hospital with broken jaws and internal injuries. The press didn't seem to give a fuck, though, and probably praised him for using Queensberry rules while he fucked them up. Isidore Shapiro, a Furrers Union official, told the Special Committee of American Federation of Labor that his union paid $3,800 a week in bribes to the police during the 1926 strikes, with Broderick getting about $100 a week and his men about 50. Johnny was probably like, Your Honor, it wasn't a bribe, it was a detail. Yeah, come on, man. And the judge cleared him of the charges, but a former communist, Malkin, bought it up again in 1939. He stated his union borrowed $1.75 million from a racketeer to finance the 1926 strikes, and that $110,000 of that money went to the industrial squad, and Broderick pocketed about $50,000. Now, seeing as the former commie was still probably just a commie in hiding, the judge didn't give a fuck, and nothing became of these incidents. 1937. A justice of the New York Supreme Court freed a prisoner that was arrested on a parole violation due to the beating that he took from Broderick. He stated, quote, "Police of the city of New York beat him so bad that he will be a cripple for life. I think this man has more than expedited his crime." Broderick's superiors were like, and found no reason to discipline Broderick, as the guy probably had that ass whooping coming anyway, the way they saw it. So, around September 1946, Democratic Mayor O'Dwyer assigned Broderick to work in his office, which was kind of unusual. I don't think Johnny would have been a great secretary. I mean, you got to wear some short skirts, you could put a thong on, and you're, "Oh, Mr. Mayor, what you want to do, Mr. Mayor? Sucky, sucky." Okay. How'd Broderick go Vietnamese hooker? I don't know. The only thing I could think of was that this was another hookup. You know, like, as you get along in the career, man, at some point you kind of want to chill out with the whole cracking heads and skulls and shit. You just kind of want to find a desk job and, finish off your time. So Johnny was getting closer to retirement, and most cops at that point were just trying to pad their salary numbers and work a cushy spot with less chances of getting shot in the dick. But things didn't quite go as planned, and in July 1947, Broderick retired earlier than expected. No one knew much at the time, but apparently the mayor highly recommended that he hang his badge up. Having nothing better to do, Broderick figured trying his hand in politics. Unfortunately, while politicians are more than willing to back him up as an enforcer during the strike days, they were not interested in competing against NYC's favorite hero. So they did what they do best and brought up the reason why he was forced to retire. Manhattan DA Frank Morgan stated that O'Dwyer forced him out of the police force when it was learned that in November of 1946, he was in the company of an ex-con named Ben Kay on a plane ride to Hot Springs, Arkansas, where he, quote, associated with, end quote, mobster Oni Madden. Oh, dastardly fucking deeds. It wasn't a good look if you were trying to be a next district leader and had a career of being accused of corruption of some type. Obviously, Broderick denied the allegations while conceding that he just happens to be on the same plane as Kay, but that it was just a coincidence. Johnny was like, I know every gangster in New York, man. It's like it's kind of my fucking job. And that didn't help him in the polls. And he lost his bid for district leader. But it was no big issue for Broderick. He sold his life story for about $75,000 to Hollywood, spent most of his free time raising dogs and horses on his farm outside of Middleton, New York, and chilled out on the porch listening to his old lady play the piano into the night. So on the 16th of January 1966, Johnny decided to go on patrol in the afterlife and died of heart disease. Did you note the date? Johnny was born, hired for the NYPD, and died on the same fucking day. How bonkers is that shit? That's like destiny type shit right there. Motherfucker was a prophecy or some shit. I mean, I typically leave opinions on a person to the reader, as I'm the kind of guy that thinks Genghis Khan is a fucking sweetheart, right? I don't view Broderick as an example of a cop that should be fully imitated in the modern era. A lot of his shit just wouldn't fly, and he'd be fired or worse within a few years, if not the first goddamn week or day, if he tried any of this shit nowadays. But aspects of the man, such as his courage and toughness, are things that one should try to aspire to. It's something telling about a guy who has no problem facing down a gun and punching you right in the jaw, or just jumping through a damn window. You don't find that kind of shit nowadays. Everybody's like, oh my god, no. Broderick was the kind of guy that if you came at him with a knife, he'd fucking fist fight you. You come at him with a gun, he'll fucking fist fight you. You got a shotgun? That's cool. I'm gonna fist fight you. That's some, woo. You don't see that shit these days. And that's something that, not for nothing, kind of got to respect that part of it. Hell, even learn how to navigate the politics of the job would be useful. Fuck all if I learn that kind of stuff, though. I mean, I'm just too much of a stubborn asshole for that, but Johnny was a man of his era, as stated by a colleague in 1966. Quote, man of his time. Under restrictions today, he'd have difficulty doing things he did, but during Prohibition, when gangsters went in and out of court like a revolving door, they had rather been locked up than meet Johnny. End quote. That blue line isn't a solid shade of blue. It fades, it brightens, depending on the time and the people, wearing that badge. Sometimes it's a shit show. Sometimes you'll be glad they're there. For as many people who are pissed Johnny ever wore a badge, just likely as many that were glad that he was there to help them out in their time of need. Either way, he was a hell of a lot more interested in the ones you hear about nowadays, so hopefully you were at least entertained. Now, if you like stories like this, let me know in the comments. I mean, I'm considering hitting up types like Wyatt Earp and covering criminals like Lucky Luciano, things like that. The crime stories tend to be my kind of bag. I know I've been doing a little bit of military history and all that kind of stuff, but I like getting gangster with it on occasion. But either way, boys and girls, I am out of here. Y'all be good.